Welcome to Fun Electronics. Today's explainer is all about demystifying the invisible forces of electricity that literally power our modern world. I mean, we interact with electronics every single day, right? From the phone in your pocket to the lights in your ceiling. But visualizing the exact mathematical laws happening inside those wires, that can be pretty tricky. So my goal for you today is to break down these complex rules into simple, highly visual concepts so you can truly master what's going on behind the switch. You know, the humorist Dave Barry once wrote, "We believe that electricity exists because the electric company keeps sending us bills for it, but we cannot figure out how it travels inside wires." And honestly, that is incredibly relatable. We kind of all share this baseline of confusion simply because electricity is invisible. It feels like magic. But by the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly how it travels and how engineers actually control it. So, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the water analogy, then move into defining electrical power. After that, we'll hit Ohm's fundamental law, dive into Kirchhoff's circuit laws, and finally, we'll put it all together by solving the network.
All right, let's jump into Section 1, the water analogy.
Because we can't literally see electrons moving around, the absolute best way to visualize the fundamental laws of circuits is to imagine that our wires are just everyday garden hoses, and the electricity is the water flowing right through them. First up, we have voltage, which is measured in volts and represented by the letter V. Now, technically speaking, our sources define voltage as the energy applied per unit of charge, also known as potential difference. But let's stick to our analogy to make it intuitive. Think of voltage simply as the water pressure. It's the physical push that forces the water through your hose. Without that pressure, the water just sits there doing nothing. In a circuit without voltage, your electrons just aren't going to move. Next up is current, represented by the letter I, and measured in amperes, or amps for short. The textbook definition of current is the time rate of change of net charge passing through a cross-section. But again, back to our water analogy, think of current as the diameter of the hose and the actual flow of that water. The wider the hose, the more water is allowed to physically flow through it at any given moment. Current is that actual moving flow of electrons that's doing the work. And rounding out our big three is resistance, measured in ohms. Resistance is exactly what it sounds like. It's a measure of how hard it is for charges to move through the system. Imagine pouring a bunch of sand into our garden hose. That sand creates physical obstacles, right? It slows down the water flow, regardless of how wide the hose is or how much pressure is pushing from behind. And the key takeaway here is that every single electrical device that consumes energy has some level of resistance. Moving right along to Section 2, defining electrical power. Now that we understand the pressure, the flow, and the obstacles in our hose, we have to ask, what can this flowing water actually accomplish? This brings us to a really crucial point, understanding the fundamental difference between power and energy, because people mix these two up all the time. Power, which is measured in watts, is like the volume of water that is flowing right at this exact second. It measures immediate capacity. Energy, on the other hand, is measured in watt-hours. Energy is like measuring the total volume of water that has flowed through the hose over a specific period of time. Think of it like filling up a 5-gallon bucket. So, simply put, power is your immediate capacity, and energy is your total delivery over time. Okay, Section 3, Ohm's fundamental law. We have all our foundational pieces on the board. Now it's time to connect them mathematically. V equals I times R. Voltage equals current multiplied by resistance. This right here is Ohm's law. It's an absolute game changer because it mathematically proves that these three elements are permanently bound together. If you change one, the others absolutely must react. Let's think back to our water analogy for a second. If you add way more sand to the hose, which increases your resistance, but you keep the water pressure or voltage exactly the same, the math dictates that the flow of water, your current, has to reduce. It is an elegant, inescapable balance. Which brings us to Section 4, Kirchhoff's circuit laws. So what happens when we don't just have one simple hose? What happens when our hoses start branching out into really complex grids and networks, kind of like the wiring inside the walls of your home? To understand Kirchhoff's rules for these networks, we first need to lock down two basic vocabulary words from our sources. First up is a node. A node is simply the point of connection between two or more branches in a circuit. You can think of it just like a T-junction where a plumbing pipe splits in two directions. The second word is a loop. A loop is just any closed path in a circuit where the current can travel in a complete full circle. And when we see these concepts in action across multiple interconnected loops, let's call them I1 and I2, joining at a central node, Kirchhoff's laws really shine.
They essentially state two unbreakable rules. First, the total current entering a node must equal the current leaving it. Makes sense, right? Water doesn't just magically disappear at a pipe junction, it has to go somewhere. Second, around any closed loop, the total voltage supplied must equal the total voltage dropped across the resistors. This means all the pressure that gets pushed into the loop is perfectly used up by the time it gets back to the start. Energy is always conserved.
And finally, Section 5, Solving the Network.
We are now going to take our simple water analogy, combine it with Ohm's law and Kirchhoff's loop laws, and actually use them to solve a real engineering problem. Engineers use a technique called mesh analysis to figure out exactly how much current is flowing in complex circuits. And the procedure? It's beautifully straightforward. Step 1, you just assume a current direction in each interior loop, literally just drawing a circle to represent the flow. Step 2, you use Kirchhoff's voltage law to write out a basic equation for each loop. The only trick here is remembering that if a resistor is shared between two loops, it actually experiences two voltage drops. And step 3, you just solve those resulting simultaneous linear equations. That's it. It literally takes what looks like a chaotic maze of wires and distills it down into basic solvable algebra.
Just to prove how wonderfully scalable this is, consider a really complex network featuring 3 entirely interconnected loops, I1, I2, and I3. Sure, it looks a bit intimidating at first glance, but by using those exact same mesh analysis steps we just talked about, an engineer just writes down 3 simple algebraic equations based on Ohm's law and Kirchhoff's voltage drops. By simply viewing this whole setup as a series of interconnected water hoses with specific pressures and sand barriers, we can easily calculate the exact current flowing through every single branch of this massive grid.
Which leaves us with a pretty mind-expanding question to wrap things up today. We just used basic water flow principles, voltage, current, and resistance to solve a complex schematic. But think about this. How do these exact same fundamental laws scale up to power entire cities, countries, and frankly, the modern global grid? Because they do. The exact same math that governs a tiny battery and a light bulb is what governs the massive power lines outside your window right now. It's absolutely wild. I really hope this explainer sparked your curiosity to look at the electrical world around you just a little bit differently. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.